Hey folks, welcome to another end of week wrap up and Q&A. This time with Andrew Meggs and Max Porter.
Yeah, and Mark is out spending some time with his family for his birthday this afternoon. So it is. Sing it with me. The Max Porter and Andrew Show.
Awesome.
I think we gotta chop some heads off now.
I think we need to trademark that.
Yeah, that tune. I don't know where I've heard it from before.
All right. So as usual, if you're not familiar with these shows, with our Friday afternoon streams, we're going to read the top 10-ish highlights from the week, and then take some questions. Mostly tech questions, hopefully, for Andrew.
Yeah, it's rare to actually drag me out in front of the camera, so I'm going to be trying to do more of these as we move, more and more into closer and closer to beta, especially once we start some, things. Do we just want to dive in?
Yeah, you want to...
I'll let you start.
You want me to start?
I want to take number 2.
Okay, got it. All right, so number 1 on the top 10-ish highlights from the week. Work in progress tech progression. Christina continues to check the boxes on tech for the progression system. She finished up setting commands to globally reset progression, which will archive previous player logs so we don't ever lose data that can compare with future data that may have format changes. She also made it possible for progression bonuses to be applied to player stats.
Yeah, and, small thing. Oh, yeah, your stats can be modified by your progression.
Important.
Yeah, that's actually, a fairly big part of it, that, it actually affects you as you progress. So, that is moving along. So, second thing, entity component templates. So this is a super deep grognardy tech kind of thing, but basically we've had a whole lot of ad hoc ways of specifying the data for entities in the world, whether it's a resource node or an NPC or a now we're getting towards getting some scenario type things up and running, and those are themselves entities in the world even if they don't have a physical object. And I sort of follow what we call the rule of 3 in programming, which is don't generalize things too early. Don't say, oh gosh, I've got one of these things, I'm going to build a system to manage things like that. That's how you end up just building layers of abstraction that don't necessarily do anything for you. By the time you've got 3 things, it's at that point you have an idea of what these things all have in common. So here's 3 different things where we sort of need to rig out entities in the world as opposed to having things be totally procedural. And so now we're down the path of, all right, well, what is the system to define this? And it turns out it looks a whole lot like the Unity editor. I mean, I don't think anyone who's done any indie game dev can be surprised by that, but now we've sort of built that out instead of having a spreadsheet, just some stuff in a spreadsheet pulled out of Google Sheets and some little XML files on disk. It's all right, now we know enough to say exactly what this needs to look like. So Bull's been working on that. Caleb and I have been heavily involved in the design of that this week, but Bull is the man who gets to actually bend the metal here, so he's bending away.
Cool. Do you want me to read the next one?
Sure.
All right. Number 3 is work in progress tech NPC updates. Colin set up NPC definitions, giving us the ability to associate NPCs with specific information provided via a CSV.
CSV is one of those spreadsheets I just mentioned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it one of the 3?
Yeah, that is one of the 3 cases. So, we sort of we're distilling that down into what's awesome.
Interesting. This allows us to have NPCs display information like text when interacted with. This is a rough first pass, and we need more attention in the future, or will need more attention in the future, but it's a small addition that gets us closer to our requirements for Beta 1. There you have it.
Yeah, and, Mark gets to say, hey, this guy needs to be more aggressive. Which, always fun to do. And kind of once, no shaving before beta. We've established that. Just answer that question right now. Yeah, that's, and once we kind of fold it all together into this sort of entity component system, like we'll also get sort of just distilled out of there free live updating for, and now we add a thing that makes the entity, target Rob anytime the moon is full or something like that. Or, this objective explodes into fireworks when you take the third one. Things like that. As well as just having the parameters and editable live on the server too, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Iteration time.
You guys are getting a lot more detail in the tech stuff because we have Andrew today.
Yeah, it's kind of been a week of meetings for me. I've done a lot less actual coding than usual, and I've sort of been, as our team has grown, it's been more and more of me as
lead programmer,
more of a lead, more of the lead side of lead programmer and less of the programmer side of lead programmer. So
cool. You want to work or read number 4?
Sure. So continued work on battle groups. Now, I hope that last week you guys saw the big info dump design. There was a big article on Massively OP that came out on Monday of this week with an interview with Mark and a little bit from JB too. JB is kind of like the champion of the battle groups in here because he's probably one of the more social gamers in the company, I think, and he's a big, a passionate guy.
Hey, what are you saying about the rest of us?
I'm saying some people like pickup groups and soloing, and some people just have like their core group of friends that they only play with, but JB is pretty passionate about this, and the team, and he's been kind of this cheerleader who's helped the company, really expand out into doing some innovative stuff. So I hope you guys read that. There's epic forum threads, articles, and tech's being built now. So yeah, we've talked a lot about AJ has been doing the UI side. Gabe has been doing a bunch of implementation in the server. And we're talking about how also to organize it specifically for some of the siege scenarios that we're talking about, in addition to in the persistent aspect of the game. So that's moving forward.
Cool. I get to read number 5. Work in progress tech Siege UI. Making use of the dev UI that JB provided for the gameplay team, Matt has been quickly iterating on a Siege context menu. Now, a menu pops open when you right-click to interact with a Siege engine instead of the player immediately using the engine. And the UI has buttons for the primary Siege / commands, so we can better test how fun using a Siege engine feels before investing the time to make a polished UI.
Yeah, this is ugly stuff, but it's stuff that you can bang on, so,
And it's prettier than / commands.
No.
Right?
Noob.
In my day, we had to duct tape the / key to...
Yeah. My day, all we had was / commands.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I can't talk. I play Destiny on consoles now.
That's okay. Whatever's fun.
Yep. Okay, so anyway, number 6.
Okay.
Right? Building ownership updates. Rob's been doing some work on just the entire structure of building ownership, which was kind of clunky. Now that it's the first player to start building on something has ownership rights. Ownership is tied to accounts, so that if accounts get deleted, they're buildings revert to being open, and actually implementing the rules that we want in the final game. Rob has been busy on.
Is the stream still going well, folks? Can you hear and see us okay? Kind of looks like there might be a problem. Who's monitoring the chat? We are.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. You good? Okay.
All right, we good.
Okay. All right, it's fine. Phew.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna burn through 7 and 8.
Go
too.
for it.
So stability and performance. As I've been kind of being a little more of a lead, and getting George has been king of like the low-level guts of the client lately. He's done a long. He kind of took the final push on migrating a lot of code in the client from being very lock-oriented to very task pool-oriented. This is something that's probably worth a just tech talk at some point.
All by itself.
Yeah. Task pools and context versus locks and mutexes and insane lockless data structures. But
maybe we could do a newsletter article on it.
yeah, I'm gonna make George write that though.
Yes.
That's all George. I don't think George wants. I think George might be a little camera shy though.
Well,
so he could write a newsletter article,
and
I could read it to you.
There you go.
Story time with Andrew. If you will turn to page 783 of the technical design document and consult figure 14B, you will see. And it's
basically a lecture with Andrew.
Gauntlet of threading.
That actually, we should totally make that. Okay.
It kills you, and then you see a great big monster.
Nice.
All right, so I did get one personal feature in, if you saw my stream on Thursday, which is client-side projectiles and arrows and stuff. This has been something that's been like somewhere floating between my number 2 and number 4 priority for like the last 6 weeks or so, while like all different things blew up and became hyper, this became critical. But I actually got some time to land this, and what this is just end to end, whatever skill you've crafted with whatever effects on your projectile, be it a fireball, be it an ice bolt, be it a ballista bolt, be it a giant rock in a catapult, be it an arrow or a fire arrow. It's just end to end of you reach in your quiver and you pull out exactly the right thing for the skill you have crafted. It sticks in your hand, you pull it back, you release it, it comes directly out of your bow, moves forward in the world, all kind of on its own before the server has sent an acknowledgement. And then when the server does send the info of, hey, there's a projectile that is in the world, it just seamlessly blends the thing that the client already made into that. So if you've looked at the game, if you go on Hatchery right now, because this code's not committed right now, you'll see like you shoot an arrow, and then an arrow appears maybe a meter or sometimes even 2 meters if there's lag in front of you, and that just looks lame. So actually having that work end to end for not just archery but every kind of projectile sort of just puts that, it creates that visceral feel. It makes everything feel super responsive of, hey, the arrow leaves your hand the instant you click the mouse to fire. So
it's one of those in between kind of things.
Yeah, it's it hides the appearance of any kind of latency and just makes it look sexy.
I watched your stream, and it really is another example for me. This is the first game I've ever worked on, and there's all these little things that you don't think about in video games that are so much more complicated than I ever imagined. And that's a really good example of one. It's like, you don't think about like how much is going to go into just pulling on an arrow and then seamlessly, as you said, transferring it from client to server.
Yeah, well, that's the part that makes it how to make the client look exactly good while having the server be the authority about everything.
Right.
And there's a long forum thread. I did actually read that forum thread, which ended in, "Oh, and Andrew probably doesn't read this forum thread, so we're wasting our time." I have like half a reply written up, so I'll get that to you by the end of the day, I hope.
Cool. Proving them wrong.
Back to you.
Oh, okay, yes. Number 9. We're up to number 9 now. Work in progress art VFX. Mike has been busy this week, coming up with VFX for several different things. First off, he's been working on making the Viking portal marker VFX, visual effects, a bit better, and began making unique visual effects to designate the portal's volume. He's also been working on explosions, yay, and various magical effects for use on Scorpion siege attacks. Pretty straightforward stuff.
Yeah, and now that we have all the projectiles and effects predicted on the client, they'll look seamless.
Should I continue with 10 or?
Go for it.
All right. Number 10, work in progress art, mines and boats and grass. I think Tyler wrote this one. Dion worked with Ben a bit this week to add in a few extra pieces to the mine set, so designers have what they need to connect all the pieces. This included an audit of the naming conventions as well. While working on that update, she began improving our Viking longboat model and helping Tyler with new terrain textures. So more cool art stuff from Dion and Tyler.
So number 11. I haven't actually seen the grass stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. What I have, so I'm probably gonna look. I'm gonna see that for the first time when we send out the actual email
Today, you mean?
Yeah. What I have seen are the new short bow animations. Sandra's working on them. They look awesome. She's been experimenting with kind of doing like several different timings. Like the system out of the box will just take whatever animation and speed it up or slow it down to match the actual timing of the skill that you've crafted, and modifiers like your strength, which are modified by your progression because Christina, see, it's all coming together. But I think a lot of people felt like we were stretching that too far, and so one animation just wasn't cutting it because it would get played at like 3 times the speed or 1/3 the speed, and
which just looks terrible.
Yeah, so no one, and so she's been making variations for like fast and slow, and we'll pick the one that's closest to the speed of your skill and stretch it a little bit.
And Tyler actually talks quite a bit about this in his article going out in the newsletter today. So you can get it from the tech side and the art side.
Yeah, but yeah, new animations are looking sexy. I think you'll get excited once you see them in game.
Cool. Number 12, art, quivers, and bows. John finished up a set of quivers for our archers earlier this week, then sped through 6 new bows, giving our archers short bows and long bows. And these will pair up with Sandra's work that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah. More art. So they've been doing continued iteration on character creation. Michelle's made some new backgrounds. And also concept art on bows. Michelle's cranking through that, being Michelle.
Cool. Number 14, work in progress art environment. Tyler added a few more terrain textures and updated mods to make zone building easier with more variation, and he streamed that this week.
Okay. So there's also been some ongoing work on, per realm variations. I don't know if is that on display yet, or?
I assume that's what variation means.
Okay.
But we can ask Tyler to
he's
add more detail.
Yeah. Well, Tyler add screenshots to explain.
Right.
Yeah. So terrain shifting with realm control, I think we're almost perfectly to the point where the client does not lag or hitch or anything if we change the terrain to reflect the realm, and that's the main reason that's been turned off for a very long time. Is just someone would tip over a control point and everything would go chunk. So he's been building some variations to explore how far we can push that with we can't stop here, it's hippie country, TDD country.
Right, that's the game we're making now. Whose turn is it to read number 15?
I think technically mine.
Okay, go ahead.
Work in progress, art and animation. Scott's been doing new one-handed weapon animations for the Arthurian male character, which some of those may come to other characters as variations, depending on how we like them. Did some polish tweaks onto the greatsword animations from last week, and you can see those in the weekly update email. And started a sort of a focused attack on a series of animations for sort of like, hey, this is our benchmark on animations, setting the standard, and showing where we want to be. Also going to be adding in emotes and equips as the tech comes online for that. Brad's made great progress on that, so
cool.
Yeah, so /dance.
That's going to be a thing?
It's going to be locked on Mark's character. He's not going to be able to turn it off.
I'm so glad Mark's not here to hear that.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mark. You can't turn off /dance.
That would be amazing.
It's locked to your account.
I can just see him flipping out about that now. All right.
Because you know how much Mark loves /dance.
Yeah.
Orcs don't dance.
/hug.
Don't wait. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Don't tempt you. Number 6.
I mean, like, I'll do it myself, so it'll just be like procedural
right.
hug,
Procedural hug.
procedural hug of just.
You don't know what angle you're gonna come at.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could want to hug anyone at any angle, so we just kind of like take the hands and.
Robot hug.
Robo.
Yeah, totally.
Tyler's character will just like be locked to. Yeah, there's gonna have to be a skill in the game where
target nearest
targets
player.
Tyler.
Right.
Targets Tyler, charms Tyler, which turns him into an NPC, which chases down Mark and hugs him repeatedly.
Oh my gosh. Number 16.
And then they dance.
And then they dance.
Then they /dance.
And then that's a catching thing too. St. Vitus's dance. All right, number 16, and the last one on this hefty list. Work in progress art, weapon impact, sound effects, and timing. After suffering a bad stomach bug, DB completed several new weapon impact sounds for staffs, daggers, and axes this week, and also worked with Scott to better sync sounds up with the new one-handed weapon animations we're testing.
I don't know, do we have any of those sound clips we can play for people?
Not handy.
Could you? Yeah, we should.
But we might be able to scare some up for the update email.
Yeah, well, we could simulate them here in the video.
Clang,
Ka-chong,
ka-chunk.
ooh,
I like that. we should record some ourselves. Do voice acting.
So
weapon noises. Ching ching. Ching ching.
So I have to tell this story. So on Warhammer, there's a woman who was a programmer for Warhammer. Now she's off somewhere else in the game industry. But she there were not a lot of women on the Warhammer programming team. There are not as many women in the game industry as I think most reasonable people would like there to be. But we
here.
So we had to, but just for placeholder, we needed to record hit sounds for all the characters, and they were like, "Quick, grab the nearest woman," and there was really only one there in the program. Two. There were, at least on the client side. Actually, 3 by then. The our sound guy just recorded her going, and it was just like the hit sound for every female character in the game, and she had a really recognizable voice, and so it just went in the game without anyone expecting it, and suddenly like the entire office was filled with the sound of this one woman repeatedly grunting and groaning, and her husband.
Oh my God.
And her husband, who worked on the team, just like turned bright red. It was just like, take it out now. So, yeah,
That's a great story.
he was like, she thought it was funny, but he was just like he was so embarrassed by it.
That's amazing.
So, I won't name names, but
No, but it's a good dev story. Should we take some questions? All right. So prepare your tech questions for Andrew. We'll go about half an hour here, and then we have some gifts to open.
oh no.
Yeah. So we're very excited about that. But for now, questions. So, Sholo wants a weekly stream of these two. We have some fans. The Max and Andrew show.
See, now you've got it. You know it's itchy and scratchy now.
You can ask me lore questions or other questions, and you can ask Andrew tech sort of questions. But neither one of us is the game designer for Camelot Unchained, so don't ask us design questions.
Standing in for Ben on game system design, I think we'll need to get the Bobcat.
Oh my God! Careful. Okay.
So here's the
Wow.
Bobcat.
It's like inches away from the microphone.
Well, he's the strong silent type, so it'll be okay.
Okay. I think we're. This is how Andrew streams usually go, folks. All right. Okay. Here we go. Questions. You know what? I'm not going to be able to go in order this time. There's just no way. We're just going to let it roll, folks. We're just going to let it roll. In fact, I'm going to put a bit of a slow onto this so that I can actually read some of these. Okay. What is that thing there? Yes. First question. This is a Ketchi / taxidermy bobcat that backer sent us a while back. Incredible Bulk. Thank you very much, Incredible Bulk. He stands here. His name is Hiruk, and he was put into one of our lore stories. So there you go. Can you see the chat, or is the cat blocking it now?
I can see the cat. The chat.
You can see the cat and the chat. All right.
Chat.
Great.
The cat
F
in
it,
the
we're
chat.
doing it live, pretty much.
Yeah, I have a message from the cat in the chat.
There's a
There.
cat message.
That's what a cat in chat normally types like.
All right. I think there was a tech question up here somewhere. How many CSE staff can fit on the couch? Oh, here we go. This one's for you.
Let's also include client negotiating with the server for lag compensation for smaller collision boxes. That's not part of that, but so that does not include that, but that is also a thing that we do.
That's an answer to ILR on the YouTube chat on client projectile prediction. Odilvik asks, Mr. Peace wants to know, will in-game tooltips and descriptions use metric or imperial measures, or both? I really hope you won't shove those feet down our European throats.
I feel like it all needs to be in furlongs. Or, I mean...
And leagues.
Yeah.
And L's.
The Bobcat's got a furlong.
I get it. And a furlock.
But yeah, I think we all the tech uses meters. No, perhaps we'll, you know what? Perhaps we'll just say it. So my personal inclination is everything is in meters, but
it is right now, isn't it?
Yeah. But for Americans who are uncomfortable with meters, we might just call it paces, because you know, person's pace is about a meter, and that way it's not scary metric.
I like that. Jodel Junkie asks, how will you compensate lag, especially with your brand new smooth projectiles?
Well, the smooth projectiles are to compensate lag.
Question
this is like, this is a huge topic. Like, there's, I mean, the client is basically, you know, the client is two things. The client, well, three things. It's a UI, it's a renderer, and it's a thing that compensates lag. You know, it gets all the server packets and sets up stuff in the world and starts playing that stuff in the world forward, and then gets more stuff from the server and says, oh, how does that differ from how I advance my own world state? And yeah, I mean, that's the three parts of the client: UI, renderer, and, you know, lag compensating world state.
Thanks for summarizing it. Miatalis asks, what are the most recent challenges in the animation system?
It's like the core animation, we're down to not a lot of remaining stuff. I mean, most of it's the stuff that's attached to animations, like getting the projectiles from skills to be part of animations. How do we, you know, like there was kind of a feature that someone was like, you know, all right, we want you to sheath and unsheath your weapons. And I was like, okay, that's a 1 hour thing to do in the animation system, but you know, the stack of stuff on what is equipped versus readied is like, you know, all the way back through the skill system is like the bulk of the work. So like most of the things that people at this point are thinking of is animation, because the animation is how you see it shown to you on the client, is more how does this integrate with the giant stack of gameplay stuff. So that's the, you know,
so it's like the animations, like the skin kind of, and then like we're still like, how does the skin attach to the meat, attach to the bones?
I'd say the single biggest challenge still, like in terms of core animation tech, as opposed to other gameplay systems that you see through animation, is skeleton retargeting. Just getting it so that, you know, we can take the animations we have and morph them onto different body shapes and do a good job of that. And, you know, still with the ability to override with custom things in all the places where they don't look good, but
okay. Odelvik asks, has Max volunteered to be the in-house voice artist for all male NPCs in game, or might there be a text-to-voice technical solution? We'll figure something out. But sure, whatever
there's
voice is needed.
there's not going to be massive amounts of dialogue. You know,
it's not that kind of a game.
No, it's really not. I'll say Skyrim. Oh God, like, you know, you want to lock down. You don't want to record dialogue until all of your like dialogue is actually written, because there's going to be edits and stuff. Like, you want to, ideally you have all your text thoroughly locked down, which means all your quests locked down, which means all the bugs in your quests fixed, and you know, and you want to do your actual voice recording pass as late in the process as possible. So like 1 year out from launch, Skyrim was just Siri. Every character was Siri. Think about how much dialogue that game had.
It had a lot.
Maybe it wasn't 1 year. Maybe it was like 18 months when like voice started. The first voice started to come in, but yeah, just every character was Siri or her male or her brother.
Well, we will. We're not at that point yet, I guess, is the answer. Dark Society Network asks, when will localization on the client begin? wouldn't it be reasonable to set up the tools right from the get-go to support not only the exchange of text with translated equivalents, but also account for the differences in grammar, like added and situation-dependent flexion gendering in German, for example?
Yes. Yes, it would. I'm not, I've done this before. I think we have a pretty good handle on the systems required, but, that's always balanced against move forward, get features in. So when that will happen is a lot later than would be ideal, but, holding up more things to get that done is also not ideal. So it's actually, the client actually knows nothing about any text, though. There's two kinds of text. There's the text that's embedded in the UI, which is, localized just like any other web page because it is web pages, and then there's text the server sends down. So client doesn't care. Client's just like, here's a blob of Unicode. I will take it from somewhere and shove it to somewhere.
Let's see. Adric Cortesia, we're not able to answer really any questions about the design of groups and stuff. Sorry, we're not the people to ask.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna let JB and Mark take those questions.
Yep.
They had a big interview. I'm sure Mark will be on the forums over the weekend if you want to ask there.
And I believe JB's answered some questions about that stuff in the Discord. I don't understand this question, but maybe you do. Given the capabilities of the engine, might we see some 1 to 2K scripted NPC encounters in the depths?
I wouldn't rule it out. Colin has done some work on, horizontally scaling NPC behaviors and AI, so that putting more NPCs into the game is just a matter of turning on more boxes. That can scale pretty much as far as we can think of.
Cool.
So there are interesting things. I would not necessarily expect those kinds of things at launch, but there's a lot of room to play with this as the game evolves.
Interesting. Flamas asks, are there any plans on changing the animation for taking an arrow out of the quiver?
Yes. Yes. It is on Sandra's screen right now.
Taking it and having the quip at the hip, or it's not the back?
I think that one, moving the quivers to the hips might come slightly later, but yeah, there are new animations, like literally, like I walked over here and there were new draw from the quiver animations on her screen that she was working on. So, yeah.
Cool. I think Tyler is sending me a video about Sandra's bow work, so we will be linking that in the email. In the email update today. Torkel asks, will there be maintenance every week?
So there's nothing in the game system, there's nothing in our tech itself that requires definite maintenance. We'd certainly like everything to be able to stay up as long as possible. There's nothing that's like, oh, well, but I think that possibly, planning in advance that whatever scheduled maintenance we need to do, if we need to do it, is going to happen, early Tuesday morning. There's I think that is a very reasonable thing to do. I mean, the reality is that maintenance does happen. Stuff breaks. Sometimes you have to fix it. But in terms of long-term, like, oh yes, we need to take the databases down and vacuum them for 6 hours every Tuesday morning, there's nothing in our tech stack that's like that. One thing we have talked about is kind of an ultra brief sort of server reset that's going to happen once every 24 hours for things in the world that, all right, so the islands have shifted slightly closer together. The state of the various large-scale campaigns advances. which might involve like things in the world being in different places. So, but that's kind of a server goes down, servers back up kind of thing that we'd like that to be. So not a you're offline for an hour, but you just have to relog.
I think that answers a few other questions in chat as well. Alex B. Gaming asks, will CU be IP locked for certain countries?
I don't believe that there are any plans to do specific IP locks. I think I know which certain country you might be talking about. And I'm going to defer to Mark on the final answer regarding that country. There may... So we've said all along that in Asia we will probably partner with someone else. We will not run the game ourselves in Asia. I'm not going to promise you exactly what the terms of our contract with our partner are. We'll figure out the best thing to do for everybody with that. But I can't make promises on what's going to be in that. What will the terms of that contract be? Because that contract hasn't even been signed yet.
ILR asks on the YouTube chat, are there any challenges in animating a bowstring?
Weapons in general, we don't sort of have inheritance of animations from, player to weapon, so that needs to be done. But otherwise, it's like that's a really, really simple kind of thing. It's just, you basically build it as a mesh where you've got a couple triangles that go from the top of the bow to the middle of the bow, and some more triangles that go from the middle of the string down to the bottom of the bow, and it's just there's one bone that's tied to those that you just pull back, and that works.
Okay. Odilvik asks a question from Ortu. When the world includes multiple islands, will the coordinate system be localized such that each island or zone has its own 0, or is it a global latitude-longitude system with a single 0 location?
I'm not sure if you're asking tech or from a player perspective. Actually, I couldn't answer that from a player perspective. I think that's a thing that Mark would like to address or not address.
Okay.
From a tech side, actually, so we have sort of subzones for physics. So each island may be covered by multiple subzones, and each of those has a localized 0. And then the islands are, and then we translate that into a fixed, flat, global world space that all of the islands are in. So,
that sounds really complicated.
One island might be, the center of one island might be, several kilometers off from the center of the world. But it's very possible that we will provide, like at the UI level, some kind of sextant that, knows relative to the island. I'm not going to say.
All right. So again, that's from a tech perspective, not a player perspective. Kick Assassin's Discord questions are good for JB or Mark, because those are the ones who work on that stuff.
Mark loves the forums. Post there.
People asking about the cat. Yeah, this is a Ketchi that was taxidermied bobcat that was created by a backer called Incredible Bulk. I think you already answered this, but Oldvik asks, if the engine can handle 2600 ARCs at the current time, how many more NPCs can you envisage it handling?
So that's we kind of run out of gas on the client at that point. So, and the client doesn't actually know. Like we hit hit our limits on the proxies and the client before we hit our limits on the game server.
Right.
And the client doesn't know what's a bot. It's just, well, there's 2,600 characters running around, so that's definitely going to be the limit for the client of what you can see in one battle. Whether those are controlled by AIs or other people is largely secondary to what's going to crush your, where the client starts to choke down. So, we'll say that answer for in your area. In terms of number of NPCs in the entire world, I don't have an answer for that. I think that at launch it's very definitely going to be limited more by the game. Like, that's not it. The tech limit is higher than anything that we really want to do in terms of NPC complex behaviors. This world is player driven.
Looking for more tech kind of questions for Andrew.
Oh, George is in the chat.
Yeah, George is answering some questions.
I was diving in there.
I think there's a big discussion going on about quivers and realistic quivers, and which ones are even were even used in the real world. So of course, Kick Assassins asks, "Can you code real life? Am I just a program?"
Are any of us? Could we all be living in a simulation?
Or watching shadows on the wall of a cave? Oh, Torkal has a question for me. Have you planned in the lore conflicts between the races of the same kingdom, or between races of different kingdoms, in order to give greater importance to the choice of a race in terms of roleplay? Yeah, and that's something that Mark has thought about from the beginning. I think we actually had this question last week, or a similar question.
So you're saying we're going to put racism in the game?
Well, it doesn't have to be racism, does it? It can just be that there may be a philosophical difference between followers of different ideas, or it may be, and these things are in the lore already. Or it may be a rivalry in the case of races in the same realm, or various other things. And then everyone always hates on Lucarpans for some reason, or loves them.
But either way, they want to punt them.
Right, exactly. Everybody, whether you're in favor or against,
one way or another, they're physics objects.
Right.
I would love to see a return of a certain feature from Warhammer.
Miatalis asks, do we have tone mapping yet? What is the planned algorithm?
So we have tone mapping. It's a very filmic style of tone mapping. George wrote it himself. He's in his off hours, he is very into actual film photography as a hobby, it is very much something that mimics the response curve of film. He can tell you more about it than I can in the chat.
All right. Apparently Dark Society Network has a tech question somewhere. In the meantime, Sacrix asks, do you worry the tech for CU will be outdated at all by the time CU is released?
Nope. No, I don't. I think that we're, in some ways, I think we're still ahead of the curve, especially on our networking architecture. We're certainly competitive on a lot of our rendering, or ahead of some people, and we'll continue to grow as as we go along. But in the end, it is about whether the game is fun, not whether the tech is completely cutting edge. So we may we're not going to be pushing quite as hard on core tech in the final run to shipping the game. So if someone comes out with something awesome in a SIGGRAPH paper 6 months before we launch, we will probably just launch the game without that. But the beautiful and terrible thing about MMOs is they're never done.
That is true.
How many engine and tech upgrades has WoW had over its lifetime?
I wouldn't care to guess.
Yeah, several. I more than one.
Dark Society Network asks, we'll see you use a lot of scripting for NPCs/animals, etc., and do you expect NPC scripts to have a major performance impact on the server? All the hired NPC guards, caravan animals, and whatever else will need AI packages to run 24/7.
Okay, so I already talked about this a little. Colin's kind of taken the lead on that. Most of the scripting is based around behavior trees. I'll let the tech inclined people Google that, and it runs on a separate server, and it's sort of we can just turn on more AI servers. All the game server really sees is that something would like this character to do this action and does not care whether that's coming from from an NPC server or from a player server. NPCs are cheaper than players from our in most of our testing so far. So because players, there's a lot of CPU that gets burned on having a really, really tight network encoding, whereas the NPC server is sitting right by the gameplay server on a 40 gigabit link in a rack at Amazon. So the actual NPC logic is cheaper than the cost of sophisticated context modeling for encoding data to send out to a game client in the real world.
There you have it. Liz Luke asks, is your engine using forward rendering or deferred rendering, or both, with forward just for transparency?
Tile-based forward plus. Well, tile-based lighting, forward plus rendering. I do not love like fully deferred shading solutions. It kind of locks you into everything being one uber material type, and it means that your transparencies have a completely different lighting and rendering solution than your opacities, and and so just like you go to fade something out and suddenly the lighting changes on it or stuff like that. And it's like, we want to be able to throw one cool effect in there that's not covered by, without like bloating out the number of buffers. So yeah, I guess that's my big answer. Forward plus that also has the nice advantage of being able to turn on anti-aliasing at the hardware level instead of doing just a blur pass over everything at the end.
Cool.
So
Sacrix asks, is there a chance the low end of minimum requirements may change with updated graphics or adding things like DX12 or Vulkan, and is that still planned?
Vulkan is still on the we would like to list, but again, I'm not going to say when that's going to come in. It's all hands on deck to just push gameplay forward right now.
Get into beta.
Yeah. And someday my wife will love me again. She's
right.
like the technical program manager of Vulkan on Android. So
Your wife is cool.
yeah, she's more badass than I am.
I forgot to say, folks, 5-minute warning. 5-minute warning, and then we're going to stop taking questions and open our presents. ILR asks, are projectiles strictly procedural, or will a headshot still register if it passes through the player's arm/shoulder first?
That's actually a gameplay question, but I can answer it. So where on the body it does damage to, does this affect the head or whatever, is gated by the skill itself. So it's I crafted a skill that damages the head, and the projectile hit the character at all, the head takes damage. So that is the current implementation. That also, one thing that we should do that I don't think anyone really has done yet is, when you are tab targeting, to adjust the aim a little bit to reflect what skill you've targeted. But that's something that we could drop in fairly quickly, make that look sexy.
Cool. All right. And I can confirm that Andrew is interested in some German beer as a Christmas present. I don't even need to ask him.
Or Belgian.
Or Belgian. But I love this kind of question. Odelvik asks, if Andrew had a free 3 to 6 months to develop something extra special for CU, what would it be?
So something that is not at all essential to the game itself. I'm torn. Pushing procedural terrain much harder, to a point where players are able to interact with it in really meaningful ways, in terms of sculpting out your building plot, in terms of damaging
like digging
things.
down and stuff.
Because the whole terrain is procedural, we can regenerate whatever parts in response to whatever things in the world. It's just the system allows it. It's all about adding, the places where it touches gameplay and user actions. Second thing, just go kind of full on ecosystem with animal and monster life, and even though you may not, and essentially have the world itself become a fourth faction.
That would be cool.
Just sort of, and now orcs have been breeding in these hills. They come down. They don't care about what realm the people are from. They're just, all right. This is a force of nature. This is and have that stuff be really dynamic. So those are the two things that I would love to add personally.
That's really cool. And for me, I'd love to, if I had a free 3 to 6 months, write lore around that. Because that would be awesome. All right, well, that seems like a great place to stop taking questions. Let's open some presents.
Okay.
You grab them. I'm going to grab the scissors. I don't think we have scissors over here. All right, so this sort of padded envelope thing is from the Funk, and the box is from Thaddeus. So which one do you want to open?
Say Thaddeus?
Thaddeus with a D.
Thaddeus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's open this one.
Okay.
This one came through customs. Came from the UK.
Right. Don't reveal anything else about the address. Hopefully I blocked it out already.
I don't know if he lives in the UK, but could have been an anonymous mail drop. And all right, so I'm not gonna look. So I like to live on the edge. This may be a dick pic, but
okay, we're gonna find out together.
Ta-da! It's a bubble wrap pic. I still don't know what this is. So, but.
Whoa!
Oh man!
Oh, that's awesome!
This is
oh,
so,
it's a metal shield.
Yeah, this is engraved. This is
this is from the Funk. So keep on sprinting to Beta 1 and may the duck be with you, says the Funk.
So are you in the chat right now?
Yeah, Tom and Quar the Funk says
Yes.
US/UK.
Okay, so it's this. Like, did you hand route this? Was this CNC? How'd this get made?
I think the Funk made that themselves, and it is based on the shield that the duck is holding in our team picture on our CSE's website. It's our logo in metal.
Yeah,
so cool.
This is pretty badass. Thank you, man.
Yeah, your awesome gift. This one from
This is a heavy.
Thaddeus.
Wait, did we just go to an ad?
Uh-oh.
Are we offline? What happened?
No, looks like it's still up. Stream out. I don't know what happened. That's weird. Not sure what happened actually. Oh yeah, we're back up now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's you drinking your
Yeah.
water. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna say, I think CSE Brittany could break CSE Tim. She's pretty diesel.
She does a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, so here's the thing. So you look at someone's leg, right? So
Can I not?
like, if you do some amount of hiking or running around, bicycling, you get a calf muscle. And lots of people have calf muscles. Most people don't even realize that like there's a shin muscle because most people are just like, yeah, here's a bone. Brittany has a shin muscle. Like she's diesel. She can take it. Nobody has shin muscles.
Basically, Tim should be glad Brittany's on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
All right. So we have an amazing shield from the Funk, who says keep sprinting toward beta. Now we're opening another gift. This one from the backer known as Thaddeus. Andrew's just rubbing his leg. Brittany wants to know why.
Okay.
Will you allow the players to set their FOV themselves? I guess that's more of
Yes.
Probably.
No, somewhere like deep in my Twitter archive or something, there's a post of my New Year's resolution is 7680 by 1440.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like 3 monitors.
Cool.
I like that.
Although you switched to 2 here.
I did. Yeah. One of our backers was nice enough to donate us some old 30-inch monitors that he was replacing with, super fancy G-Sync monitors because, yeah.
Awesome.
And so, my triple portrait has switched to just a dual 30-inch. I mean, they're 10 years old, but plenty good for text, which is what's on them most of the time.
Cool. Oh,
All right,
boy.
so what's in here?
I see a skull and crossbones.
And I see Death Wish coffee.
Oh my gosh. Is that like a 5-pound bag?
Now wait, wasn't there some kind of recall on Death Wish coffee?
Because it'll kill you?
Yeah, like...
I don't know.
Seriously, someone in chat, like, Google, like, fatal coffee recall or something, and, like, seriously, there was... I don't know if it was Death Wish, but one of, like, the, like, super ultra strong coffees just, like, had a legit recall. It was like...
Oh, Sacrix says, Max, you killed it. Thanks, Sacrix.
Are we broken again?
No, like I'm killing it.
Max is killing it.
Yeah.
This is the world's strongest coffee.
Awesome.
Ingredients, organic coffee. I'll bet if you made inorganic coffee, it could be even stronger. Like,
You just
literally
synthetic
inorganic.
caffeine.
No, I mean like titanium. Maybe some zircon. Like, absolutely no organic compounds whatsoever. Carbon-free coffee.
It would probably kill you. It would probably kill you. But this may kill us anyway. Thank you so much, Thaddeus, for the Death Wish coffee. And I believe Seattle was sent, CSE West was sent a bag as well. So
Have you ever heard
everybody's going to be confident.
Have you ever heard
that
the
that's
expression
mad.
"coals to Newcastle, Max"?
I have, but I don't know what it means.
So, in the Industrial Revolution, or pre-Industrial Revolution, Victorian England, Jack the Ripper era, all of the coal that made London so sooty was mined up in Newcastle and carried down. So, carrying coals to Newcastle is essentially, doing something that is so utterly redundant as to be superfluous. And I think coffee to Seattle.
Well, but our office didn't have Death Wish.
I think but I think there's a Starbucks actually in the office there. There's a building, and then there's the office where the CSA people work, in the room, and there's a Starbucks in that.
Well, now they can
And
frighten
I think there's
the,
a Pete's inside the bathroom of the Starbucks.
Now they can frighten the Starbucks employees with Death Wish coffee. All right. Well, thank you all so much for asking questions and watching the stream. Keep an eye out for the monthly newsletter that will be dropping sometimes this evening, as well as the Friday update, which will contain the top 10-ish list.
Max is
that
going
we
to drop
read.
his new newsletter. It's going to be so dope.
Yeah.
He's dropping his new newsletter this afternoon, yo.
Yo. And we will see you later. And until next time, this has been the Max and Andrew Show.
Push the button, someone.
Bye.